Hey guys, my name is Friedman, and today I'm going to be showing you how to create a bonsai tree for less than $10. This plant I have right here is a plant that I bought as nursery stock. The plant cost just under $9, and this type of plant is Thuja occidentalis, and the variety is Beckman's Gold Arborvitae. Okay? So today I'm going to be taking this regular type of plant you usually buy more as a hedge or a shrub or a tree lining that you would grow on the side of a property, and I'm going to be cutting it down, making it into a very small bonsai tree. Alright, so the first thing we want to look for, if you're going to be going to a store and you're going to be buying some kind of nursery stock plant to turn into a bonsai, there's a few key things you want to keep your eye on. The first thing is the trunk line. Alright, one of the most important things in bonsai is the shape and structure of the trunk. That's really going to define many times what style that you're going to be able to create with the tree. The reason why I chose this tree in particular, I like the fact that the trunk split very low. So you kind of have a thick base of the trunk here, and then you can see that the trunk splits into two branches, and then this branch over here splits again. So it allows a small tree to be made already with a good amount of taper that you wouldn't have to wait to grow, you know, if you're growing a plant from seed or just collecting a small sample. So that's pretty cool. So I think my plant for the tree right now is going to go along this trunk line, starting down here and either working its way into the smaller side branch as the new lead, or potentially a little bit higher up, either with this branch as the new lead, or even starting, keeping this main branch as the lead with these as two side branches. So I'm going to play around with the tree a little bit more and try to decide exactly what I'm going to do. But as of now, this larger branch to the side here is going to be removed. Now I'm going to leave a little bit of base for this tree here, for this trunk, just because I might decide I want to create a gin, which is just dead wood where you remove the bark. So I'm not going to remove the whole thing flush just yet. I think I'll create a gin for now, and I can always remove it in the future if I don't like it with the rest of the style of the tree. Alright, so I removed this big piece of plant right here. As you can see, it actually was growing some of its little fruits. It will have some seeds inside, so I may save those and try to replant them. And I may actually try to plant this whole top piece here as a cutting. Just remove some of this lower foliage, pinch this off, and then later just throw a little bit of rooting hormone on it, stick it in some soil and see if anything happens. Back to this tree. So we have this side branch here that I'm going to probably gin, and this allows us to kind of get a better feel of what's happening with the other branches. So again, one potential option is to turn this into the new lead. So remove this branch entirely and leave this, creating a little bit of taper into this plant here. And that still might be the option I'm going to go with. However, I'm going to try some of the other options that require leaving a little bit more of the plant. If I decide I don't like that, I'll reduce it further. Alright, so the next cut I'm going to make is reducing the height of this main lead here and looking at the option of having these as two side branches, but this is deadwood over here. Many times people will say things like, when in doubt, cut it out, when it comes to pruning trees, and that is a viable option. However, many times I like to start off doing less and deciding if I want to take off more. Because once you take off too much, you can't put it back, you got to wait for the plant to grow, and depending on the plant, that could take a while. So I'm going to make my cut just around here, just to open up the tree a little bit more and kind of get a feel for what I want to do with this tree. Alright, so now, put dead things in here. You see that there's a potential for this tree to have two side branches over here, and then a couple of potential other side branches here, with one of these becoming the new lead. And we could maintain that same kind of look to the tree if we like. However, the issues with this is, if you notice here, there's going to be a lot less taper. This part of the tree is pretty long and straight, so it's going to in the long term, although it'll give me a bigger tree for now, it might create a less interesting tree in the future. And it might be wiser again to cut back to one of these branches if I want to keep it upright, wire it upright, and at least have a little more movement in the trunk and more taper in the long way as well. I do still think it's a little tall. I think a lot of people, when they're very new to bonsai, and I know this was true for myself, I'm still new, but when I first started off, I didn't want to cut. I was afraid to take off too much of the tree, and with good reason. If you spent the time to collect a plant, grow one from seed, or invest in one that you purchased, you don't want to kill it. You want to make sure that plant is healthy, and sometimes taking off too much foliage can result in the death of the tree. So not taking too much off at the beginning sometimes makes sense. However, the second reason why people don't always take too much off the tree in the beginning is because they like the branching. The ultimate goal of the tree, of the bonsai tree, is to have a full-grown miniature, a full-grown looking tree in a miniature scale. So what does that entail? Most trees have multiple branches and a lot of ramification of the branches. So branches that continuously split and fork, and then have various foliage, leaves, needles, whatever it is. So sometimes in the desire to make a tree faster, a beginner will allow branches to be very long and lanky because the tree looks bigger and more full. However, in the long term, the design for the tree might not look great. It's going to look very leggy. For some species, this works. For some pines that are very tall and thin in the wild, that might be a more viable option. But for other trees, you might want to cut back sooner rather than later. I have several plants that I, over the course of several years when I was starting off, made cuts, and then later had to cut it back much further because I decided, with the width of the trunk, it was too tall, the trunk was too straight and boring, whatever it was. So it kind of, although it was a good learning experience, I was able to make cuttings from some of the pieces I then later removed. I probably could have saved a lot of time creating a more getting to the design I wanted by just making those cuts in the first place. So I'm going to take one more look at this. I'm still thinking I want to bring it down. This trunk is just too straight and boring. I definitely want to, shorten that a little bit more. So I'm going to bring this main trunk down a little bit more. I'm going to leave some in case I want to gin it. Sometimes gin wood does look nice, but you don't want to over gin either. Alright, so I took a little more down off the tree, and with this would be the new lead. This could either be cut flush, or I could leave this as a gin here, and then I already have a bit of a, well, if I leave it, this branch will be removed either way, I think. So again, less branching, looks less of a tree, but in the long run, you might get a more natural looking tree because you'll have more taper in the trunk once it reaches maturity and starts really coming into its form. That's definitely one option, and then I have to decide what I want to do with this. And there'll definitely be some taper in the tree there. However, there'd be a lot more taper going from this branch to this thicker branch, from here to here. The change in diameter of this part of the tree, this part, is not going to be as different, so the taper won't be as noticeable. Again, you don't want too much, but usually over time it'll catch up and start to balance out. The thicker, the newer part of the tree will grow a little faster than the older part, and you'll get a balance. But it usually will not get thicker than the original part of the trunk, unless you have a large amount of branches coming out, it's very vigorous. At that point, the trunk could get thicker, and you might get a little bit of reverse taper. But that's a little more common with, I think, with ficus species and certain plants, but it can happen. This would be the first branch. I have to wire this down. I still think I'm liking my original idea better. Cut it all the way down, take it down to this branch, and allow this to be the new lead. It'll allow for more movement, and I just think the trunk taper will be best from this point. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to cut these back a little bit further. I'm going to move here. Alright, so I really took that down. But I think that's the way to go for now. So this will grow as the new lead here. I know it doesn't look like much right now. It looks kind of just like a stick. But over time I'll let this grow, thicken up, and I just have to decide if I want to keep this as a gin or if I want to remove that fully. So do I want to kind of make this branch blend in like it was always the main lead, or do I want to leave that gin and kind of show the story of there was once a thicker, larger trunk line here that for whatever reason got broken, died back, and just that little stump remains to tell that story. Because in that case it'll look like this is a side branch that's grown and replaced that initial dead branch, dead trunk here. Or do I want this, that flowing look? You know, I have a few other trees where I have kept the ginwood and to kind of simulate that battered lifetime tail of the tree. So I think for this one I'm actually going to remove this gin here, or this gin I was going to make, and just let it grow flush. That should heal up over time. And I think that being said, I'm going to take down this gin over here a little bit too. I think it's a little too tall for the way the tree is set right now. Alright, let's see how this looks with it ginned. So I don't want to take off too much of the live bark, so I'm just going to use this knife, cut into the live bark so I don't take too much off. Alright, so for now, pretty simple structure. This is just going to continue to grow. I have this little bit of ginwood here. In the future I'll end up probably grinding this down a little bit, making it a little more pointed, make it look a little more natural, or potentially just cut it off entirely and allow that to heal over. And as for now, I think I made the right decision here. There's a little bit of reverse taper here because of this gin. So again, in the future I might remove more bark, add to the interest of the tree, but for now I wanted to recover. And this will be the new main branch. For now I don't mind the position for this new trunk. However, I could always get a little bit of wire in the future, shape a little bit more. But for now I'm just going to kind of let this grow free. And in the future I will be trimming it down, probably to about here or here. And I'll continue the progression of building the taper into the trunk. For now, I think this is good. I'll let the tree heal up. Probably just add a little bit of cut paste here so the tree doesn't lose too much water and continue to grow, because it is getting a little bit hot as we're getting into summer. So, pretty simple. That's how you can create a bonsai tree from a nursery stock. A lot of the things you can do. You can make bigger trees with bigger nursery stock. But given the diameter of this trunk, I think making a very small Momi-style bonsai was the way to go with this one. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.